Hey everyone, wanted to make a quick video here about what is the most profitable items that I've found to make in the hideout. Now this can shift drastically as component prices move around. For example, normally as a whole, prices on most things go down over the weekend. Just as more people show up and more people sell stuff, it kind of drags prices down. Whereas towards the end of the week, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday morning, prices are generally at their highest because that's when everybody's inventories have been scratched out and there's less stuff around. Simple supply and demand. So take all of this with a grain of salt. Make sure you watch the cost of the items you're crafting. A little up in the cost of your items and other items become more profitable. Things get a little bit cheaper and you can make a bunch more money with the stuff you're doing. This is done with the intent of so you've constantly got something working in each of your stations, making you money. So it's just passive income, if you will, on the back end while you're playing the game. Another caveat with this is I have all my traders maxed out, as well as all of my stations maxed out. If you don't have this, these things are going to be different for you. The discount at the flea market you get by the intelligence center is huge, has a huge effect on a lot of this stuff. It's actually a pretty big cost to some of your crafted items. This also gives you access to trader items that you can use to make stuff. It makes your buying more stable. You're not as dependent upon flea market price fluctuation in prices to get stuff. For example, the Salewa and the green gunpowder, you can make those completely with trader bought items. Now there are two types of items to sell I'm going to mention here. And it kind of depends on what you want to do and when to do it. For example, when I'm playing during the day, I make my highest value per minute because I'm constantly churning those things. But at the end of the night, when I get off, go to bed, or if I'm going to get off for a little while, I make the highest value item because it just pans out better that way. You're not dependent on the clock of the item. You're dependent on real life to determine what it is. So those are the two items we're going to look at. So the first thing we're going to look at here is the Medstation. The most valuable thing you can craft in here per time right now is Salewas. These little guys here, you can buy all three of these components off of traders. And sometimes you can even get them a little cheaper depending on the day. So sometimes you get these as cheap as 1,000 per, just as people are putting them up. That just adds more profit to your crafting. So by all means, pick as many of those up as you can. I have an entire med case that I use just to throw these components in, and I buy a bunch of them when I see them cheap. I sell these at 12,000 flat. Now I look at the market to make sure that there's nothing else going on. Make sure you're filtering by your condition from 100 to 100, and then you see the full ones. So right now you see these going for 9 to 10,000. I sell them for 12, and I don't ever have much trouble selling them. They might sit on there for a little while, but these get churned through so fast. And again, this is the weekend, so things are cheaper right now, being Saturday and more people on. But I sell them for about 12,000, and by doing that, I get about 4,200 to 4,500, depending on my components, per sale, per item I sell, which is pretty good considering that it only takes about 22 minutes to make these things. That nets you right around 195 to 200 rubles per minute, and that's going to be something I'm going to use pretty frequently here. Now, your single biggest item that makes you money is the propitals. They're making almost 7,000 per run. Now, again, it's heavily dependent on how much you get these items for. One thing you don't want to do is buy your balm, your golden star at your full. So, people sell these for 1 out of 10 and 2 out of 10s, and you get these pretty cheap. It actually helps up quite a bit with the propital. If you can get them under 30,000, which all of these here are for, you're good. Now, same thing with these ibuprofens. Now, I don't see many of these for sale that are 1s out of 12s or 2 out of 12s. I'm not sure why, but as long as you're getting these at less than 24,000, you're good at 12,000 selling your stuff. Again, you can adjust your profit margins to how you see fit and where you want to make money. And then the last piece of the pile of meds. Now I make these pretty consistently, and as long as you're making them for less than, or if you're buying them for, it costs about 9,900 to make these. So this right here, these are actually cheaper. These things are cheaper than you can make them with the components that you come up with. For the most part, you can make them a little bit cheaper, but my cutoff line is 9,900. I won't buy them for any more than that. I make them, and you just get into a string where you're making a bunch of them. So Propital is the biggest item. Some other noteworthy mentions though are IFAX and pile of meds. Those two can make you decent money. They're right around 100 rubles per minute. in crafting. And again, if you get your components cheap or you're finding them in raid, it's good to make them. Now the pile of meds is geared totally around this augment. If you can get these cheap, like right now, if you stock up on the weekend and stock up on all your items, you're doing really good. All right, next thing we're gonna do is move on over to the nutrition unit. This one's pretty straightforward. The only thing I'm making right now is Aquamari. Just straight buying these components and selling these for about 25,000. Nothing else even comes close in the nutrition unit. You're north of 300 rubles per minute making these. Now, you can make a lot more if you use crafted purified water, but the problem with that is it's actually a loss in value. It's just cheaper to buy this stuff than to your crafted purified water, because you want to use your purified water for your booze generator. So just buying these components and making these, and I sell them for anywhere from 25 to 28,000. It kind of depends on where the market's at, and they sell really quick. I sell out a whole batch of 8 in less than usually 15-20 minutes, which makes for a really good profit. So this is all I crank in here. Now, a lot of people make sugar, and that's fine if you're using it. I find it's better to just buy it because the margin is so small. The cost of a couple hundred is not worth the time. Otherwise, you're just trying to buy your sugar for less than 40,000. 41 usually works pretty good. And you just watch these and keep buying them. There's a lot more detail to go into with some of this stuff, but I'll save that for a separate video. All right, now the next thing we'll go on to is the water collector. Now, you can only make one item in here, but I stress that you constantly want to be churning these things out. These water filters, you can get them for 60 to 70,000. There's times like when they do server resets and things like that these things skyrocket in price up to like 100,000 a piece, but they always come back down. I've even seen them as low as 40,000 before. So always have this thing churning, because you can just straight sell this, and you're making, it's one of the more profitable items in the entire game. You're making north of 300 rubles per minute just making these, and that's if you only count one filter for one bottle. And if you're on top of this and you don't let your timer reset, you can make a lot more. So as soon as you get these going, you should be making these things just to sell this if you want to. And this flows right into the booze generator. This is what I use my water for, is to make this. Now I buy my sugar. Now just using moonshine and straight selling it. Now I sell my moonshine. I don't use it for anything else because the profit's the highest if you're selling the moonshine. You can gamble with the scav cases, and I do at night. So when I get off for the day, that 4-hour timer, I cook one thing of moonshine in that scav case and get my rewards the next morning. But otherwise, I'm just selling my moonshine. Now I buy my sugar and make my water, and that nets me right around 220 rubles a minute. Obviously, it fluctuates a lot. You're making anywhere between 100 and 120,000 depending on the price of water and moonshine on your sales. Now we'll hop over to the Lavatory real quick. This one's a little tricky, and honestly I discovered something new doing this analysis. For a long time I was just making mag cases, and these make decent money. They're really good for getting up your vendor trade or your flea market rating, which helps you sell more items, but they take a long time and they're expensive. Making them, you make anywhere from 25 to 30,000 depending on the cost of materials. Bolts and nuts can be very fluctuative. I was getting them for 9,000 for a while, less than 10. Now they're in the 13 to 15,000 per, which really cuts into your margins. Same thing with these guys. These guys were selling for 35,000, and now you can see they're in the 50. So when prices are like this, these things almost break even. One thing to remember is you can always get these tanks full or empty. Sometimes you get lucky and get one of these at 80,000 that's full of fuel. So always check as you're buying them, because you got to be quick. But if you get one that's full of fuel, throw it in your generator, let it burn off, and then you get even more value out of your purchase. But when I'm cranking things and what I'm constantly making here is the ox bleach. Now, it sounds weird because it's not really used for anything but a barter item. But as long as you can sell this for right around 9,000, and you can see other people doing this in here, or even upwards of 9,200, you're going to make money on these. And that's all I do. I just crank these and crank these and crank these and sell them in batches of 10 or 15. And the timer's perfect. Right at 38 minutes, it's about the time of a raid, sometimes 2, depending on how a raid goes. And by doing that, you're making right around 170 to 180 rubles a minute, which with the mag case is less than 100, and it's going to be even less than that now. Now, kind of like the moonshine, I'm at night I make one of these things because it runs for a couple hours, and then I sell it on a flea market for 318,000, and that's mostly just to help with my vendor rating. I'll make these even if I'm losing money because I'm spending money to get that flea market rating up so I can sell more items. One thing I want to really quickly go over is the Intel Center. You should always have something cranking here because it's making you money. It's not a lot, but you're not giving up anything else by doing it. Currently, because of the price of flash drives, and they're coming down a little bit, but they were working into the 60,000s, which makes this not profitable to sell. They've got to be in the 50 to 55,000 to straight buy to make this profitable. I've been using these items to buy. Now, as long as you're getting all of these items for less than about 180,000, you're good. So you make all three of these, you get your three flash drives, turn them into Intel, sell your Intel for, it's been over 200, but you can sell it for the 210 to 215 range. Always keep something running in here. Just a little extra money you can make. All right, last thing up is the most complicated item in here. I'm working on 2 separate videos for the Workbench. There's so many options, variables, and factors that play into how this thing works and where you can make money. Not trying to make money, but at a pure utility is very useful. Making your ammo here is way cheaper than buying it on the flea market. If you're after making money and not crafting for utility, I got a couple of recommendations. Now, because of the variability here, there's not any one thing that works. Plus, it kind of depends on where component prices are at and where things are selling during the week. So with that said, one of the biggest single profit sell items you can make right now is the 9mm rip ammo, which is right here. These guys you're making 50,000 per run, and that's if you're buying all your components. Obviously, you make more if you craft, but again, that's the complexity of this, the layers of crafting gunpowders and stuff. The VOG grenade right here, these VOG 25 Kataba Ka Russian word grenades. These things are fantastic for profit right now, and not just profit, but value per minute. This is pretty much all I'm making out of here right now because of how much money you can make with these. And then lastly, your Hawk gunpowder. That's your red gunpowder. Now, don't make it with the mortar shell. Let me find that recipe real quick. This recipe right here just loses you money because these things are worth so much money now. They were selling for 80,000, 70,000 for a while. As you can see, they're almost double that. The best thing to make your Hawk gunpowder, right here, your matches, your green and your blue. Now, I craft my blue gunpowder. I'd spend a day and I just craft nothing but blue, and you can make it for about 6,000. You're making it with this PS ammo right here. You buy that PS ammo or you find it in raid and you turn it into blue, and it's less than 6,000 per when you do it that. So use those to make your red. I make a bunch of red. I make a bunch of blue, a bunch of red. I also make a bunch of Hawk gunpowder. This one is actually really good to make. I also make a bunch of the Eagle gunpowder. Now this one's really good to make because it's the only other item that you get all your stuff from vendors. So I buy these from Peacemaker, 10 at a pop, and then I buy the smoke grenades from Proper and just make this. It actually makes decent money. If you just sell that gunpowder, you make right around 300 rubles a minute doing this. It's about 30,000 a pop just cranking these out. So kind of depends on where I'm at and what I need. Right now I'm making a bunch of these because these are the most profitable. But as these go up and down and I can't get items, I'll switch over and make some of the other stuff. For the most part, all of your ammos are going to make you money. It's just a matter of which makes you the most. So even if you're buying components, for example, this 7N12 BP makes you about 190 rubles a minute. So if you just straight buy both of these, you're making money there. The only ammos that really don't make you money are your shotgun shells. Your 9mm can make you money, but it usually doesn't because it's pretty hard to sell that regular 9mm ammo right here. And then also your AP20s don't make you anything really. So that's my video, guys. That's kind of where I'm at right now in the flea market. I'll try to update this weekly, talk about where things are at, what's making the best items. I'll probably do the videos on Monday because that gets through the glitch of the weekend, if you will, where some things get really cheap and some things get really expensive. I use the weekend to buy my components. I stash up a bunch of them for the week and then just crank resources all week, and that's when you make your most profit, is selling things on kind of like Thursday and Friday. So if you're into this kind of stuff, I hope this is helpful. If you're just trying to look for something to churn while you're playing, simple, I hope you got something out of this too. If you liked the video, please hit like down below. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see when I make more of these things and get updates. I'll try to keep them short and sweet so you guys can get in and out and figure out what's working. I'll put timestamps in at the bottom in the comments so you guys can jump to specific craft stations that you want. Otherwise, thanks for your time, guys, and we'll see you in Tarkov.